You've probably already watched a dozen productivity videos. You know about morning routines, you know about time blocking, you know about checking your phone less, and yet here you are, still feeling like the day slips through your fingers before you've done anything that actually mattered. Most productivity advice is the same 10 ideas recycled with a different thumbnail, and if those ideas were going to work for you, they already would have. Several of these habits don't show up in the usual productivity content, and a couple will sound genuinely weird before they make sense. But the math adds up to about 2 hours back in your day, not from overhauling your life, not from waking up at 4 a.m. like some kind of productivity vampire, just from patching the leaks you didn't know you had. The first habit is for every task you've been putting off. Before anything you're avoiding, commit to doing the worst possible version of it first. A terrible email draft. A bullet point outline that barely makes sense. Speed only. Quality is not the goal. Then you edit up from there. The first time I tried this, I wrote an email that started with, "Hey, so basically here's the thing." After one edit pass, it turned into a perfectly normal email. The dumb version was 80% of the work, and I didn't even notice. That's why this works when just start doesn't. Telling yourself to just start still carries the pressure of doing it right. Telling yourself to deliberately make it bad removes that pressure completely. Your brain stops protecting you from failure because failure is literally the plan. The time this saves isn't in the doing, it's in the avoiding. Most people spend more time dreading a task than the task actually takes. Here's one that explains exactly why your previous habit attempts didn't stick. Most habit advice is time-based. Check email at 9 a.m. Deep work from 10 to 12. Those intentions sound reasonable, right up until a meeting runs long or someone in your house decides 7 a.m. is a great time to test the smoke alarm. The clock slips, the habit doesn't happen, you write it off for the day. The fix: anchor habits to triggers instead, things that already happen every single day. Instead of "I'll write my priorities at 8 a.m., it becomes "after I make my coffee, I write my priorities." The coffee happens regardless. The habit follows automatically. Behavioral science consistently shows trigger-based habits form faster, last longer, and require significantly less willpower. Productivity cheat codes, except completely legal. This next one is probably the least known habit in this video, and the one most likely to genuinely surprise you. Every time you stop working on something midway and come back later, you pay a re-entry cost, 5 to 15 minutes, just figuring out where you were and what comes next. Multiply that across every task you pick up and put down, and you've got a significant hidden drain nobody talks about. The habit: whenever you stop working on something unfinished, spend 2 minutes writing a handoff note to your future self. Where you are, what the context is, the next 3 specific actions. Think of it as a sticky note for the version of you who comes back after lunch, slightly less caffeinated and with absolutely no memory of what you were doing. 2 minutes of writing saves 10 to 15 minutes of confusion later. Future you will be grateful. Future you has historically been terrible at remembering things. Fourth, the gap between your alarm going off and actually doing anything useful. Most people lose 15 to 25 minutes every morning just getting started, not from lack of motivation, but friction. Finding the right document, figuring out what yesterday you was even trying to do, being a confused archaeologist of your own work. The habit: the night before, set up your workspace for tomorrow's first task. Document open, right tab ready, notebook on the correct page. Your future self walks in and just starts. A to-do list tells you what to do. This removes the gap between reading that list and actually doing it. All right, tab hoarders, this one's for you. Every open browser tab is an unresolved loop your brain registers as something needing attention. You're asking it to hold 22 conversations while also trying to do actual work. No wonder it's tired. The habit: before any focused work block, close every tab that isn't directly related to what you're doing right now. 30 seconds. Research puts attention recovery time after an interruption at up to 23 minutes. Fewer open loops means longer stretches of actual work instead of being very busy while getting very little done. Here's one that sounds almost too obvious, and yet almost nobody does it. The average person opens their email inbox around 15 times a day. 15. That's not a productivity system. That's a nervous tick. The habit: whenever you open any app, complete every small action you can before you leave. Open your email, process everything under 2 minutes before closing it. Open your notes, file the loose ones while you're there. It works with how you already behave, which means you'll actually do it. Imagine that. The seventh habit is one most people roll their eyes at, right up until they try it. Most people push through the afternoon slump by sheer stubbornness, technically moving the mouse around and calling it working. You're not working, you're performing work. There's a difference. The habit, every 50 to 60 minutes, take a 5-minute break completely away from screens. Stand up, get water, set a timer so it doesn't drift into a 45-minute YouTube spiral. Speaking of which, good job still being here. A 5-minute rest buys a full sharp hour afterward, versus grinding for 90 minutes and producing the cognitive equivalent of a shrug. This next one is short but genuinely underrated. Without a clear end to your workday, your brain doesn't actually stop. You close the laptop, but the background processing continues, replaying that weird email from your coworker, making mental notes you'll forget by morning. That costs sleep quality, which tanks the next day. The habit, end each day with a consistent closing marker, something as simple as writing "shutdown complete" after glancing at tomorrow's first task. Over time, your brain learns that phrase means off, like Pavlov's bell, except instead of drooling, you just stop working, which is arguably better. The final habit has the biggest long-term payoff and only requires 1 week of tracking. Most content says do your hardest work in the morning, but for a lot of people, cognitive sharpness actually peaks mid-morning or early afternoon. If you're working in the wrong window, you're sprinting in the wrong gear. The habit, for 1 week, rate your mental energy every hour on a 1 to 10 scale, just a number in your phone. At the end of the week, you'll see a 2 to 3 hour window where your numbers are consistently higher. That window becomes protected time for your most important task. Everything else fills around it. Working at your actual peak can cut the time a task takes by 30 to 40%, and it takes 1 week to find it. Here's what it all adds up to. Preloading your environment, 20 minutes. Reentry cost reduction, 10 to 15 minutes per task. Trigger-based habits, 10 minutes. Dumb version first, 20 minutes. Tab and already open rules, 15 to 20 minutes. Micro resets, 30 minutes. Peak time scheduling cutting hard tasks by 30 to 40%. Even conservatively, that's well over 90 minutes recovered, for most people closer to 2 hours. And recovered time isn't equal. An hour of focused peak state work beats 2 hours of fragmented effort every time. You're not just getting hours back, you're getting your best hours back. Don't try all 9 this week. That's how good intentions become an overwhelming list you avoid, a deeply ironic outcome for a productivity video. Pick one. If you haven't tried the dumb version first rule or the handoff note, start there. 1 habit, 1 week. Then add another. Drop a comment before you go. Are you starting with the dumb version strategy or the handoff note? I'm genuinely curious which one lands, and it'll help me figure out what to cover next. And if you're into productivity tips you can actually accomplish, subscribe to the channel.